My name's Jay, by the way. Steve. Steve.
Hey, good evening, everybody. Welcome to,
Right here.
Yeah, exactly. Steve is sitting next to you as well.
Yeah, we got another Steve.
good evening, everybody. Welcome to this month's iOS. It's good to have everybody back. I think we're in for a very fun and very timely topic tonight. So again, welcome. Before I hand it off, just want to make sure welcome. As usual, I'll do announcements after the fact. But with that, I am going to hand it off to Leo to take us on his guide to finding your rhythm with AI-assisted development.
Cool. Let's see how I can do this. Where's the little share screen thing?
Be at the bottom bar.
I did. Okay. There we go. All right. Can you see it?
Yes.
Awesome. Okay, let's see. Give me 1 second. Cool. So thank you everybody for coming to today's talk. Everybody can hear me good? All right, awesome. So yeah, thank you so much for joining me today for my talk on vibe coding, whatever you want to call it. Finding your rhythm between AI assistance and human expertise. So I don't know if you've heard, but like AI happens to be everywhere right now. Um, we can even see it on electronic toothpaste or toothbrushes as well. Companies are just putting it everywhere and slapping it everywhere. I don't know if anybody saw CES a couple of months ago, but there were things like AI note-taking apps, a lot of issues with privacy as well, just issues with the way AI is used. We have AI hologram, uh, AI in coffee makers, AI in refrigerators, AI in doorbells, AI robots, of course. And I don't know about you, but somebody who's in the tech field, um, I'm a little bit like kind of skeptical a lot of this stuff. I think we've all been burnt by different technologies in the past, whether it's smart cars or NFTs is a great example, 3D printing, the metaverse. And we've seen these products get hyped, and we've all been a little bit skeptical, and it's even gotten a few people in prison. But then I started using these tools, and I did find them actually kind of useful. I remember just starting to use ChatGPT and just creating like bash scripts out of it um, as well. Oops. Just want to make sure. Get the chat up here. Cool. Um, and then, I would create like bash scripts, or maybe I just needed something like a quick enum, or I needed a quick web app in JavaScript with Node. Not anything in production, but just anything to test. And I found real use in this tool. And then, like, when I got back from WWDC this year, I was like, wait a second. Like, one of the thoughts that I've had is I really like, for instance, the way Swift UI you can use result builders, but I don't like Swift syntax. If anybody's built a macro, you probably know what I mean. And so I had this idea. Well, can we just like create Swift code using like a Swift UI result builder? And I basically thought, hey, like this is a great idea for AI. And within like a few months, I ended up creating Syntax Kit, which basically lets you like dynamically create Swift code using Swift UI syntax essentially. So you like put a function within curly brackets and can define variables and code dynamically. So it's really good if you want to create a macro, for instance. Um, and then I had this project a few years ago where I was using CloudKit on the server. But then I just ran into some roadblocks, and that's where I came up with the idea of restarting Miskit. And I've basically been using AI to build an open API YAML file that can then be used to talk to the CloudKit JSON REST API, and that that has helped a lot. Recently, I added like uploads and a few other things that I'm going to be using it for to basically update the public database in CloudKit um, on the fly. Actually, I'm using for free. I'm using GitHub Actions to do it, so that way um, I could do all sorts of stuff there. Um, so I then like started to really deep dive into AI. And that's when I went down the rabbit hole of like the inevitability. There's a lot of stuff out there just about the inevitability of AI taking over. And I think what like really freaked me out was this whole AI 2027 graph, which the idea of that um is this idea of a fast takeoff. Um and that AI is going to happen once it reaches a certain point, it's going to happen really quick. And there was this book, I would say like 2012 by Nick Bostrom called Superintelligence. And that's kind of the thesis of this book is that once AI gets smart enough, we won't be able to control it, and that it's going to happen quick once it reaches a certain point. And so, like, there's the idea of a slow takeoff, right? Where it's just a nice graph that um, humanity can adjust to, right? But then there's this idea of like a fast takeoff, where once it hits a certain point, it's going to be quick and it's going to be fast. And this isn't like the view of just ordinary, like, this isn't a view of quacks or anything like that, as there is a lot of that on the internet. This is the opinion of two of the godfathers of AI, Jeffrey Hinton and Yoshua Bengio, who both have stated their fears about AI taking over. The idea of this comes from, like, if you think about it, is we have human beings building AI right now. And in some cases, we've already started using AI to build AI. And once we get to the point where, like, we have AI building AI, and it's good enough that what it's reached is called artificial general intelligence, um, then we end up in a feedback loop. And it goes from just being AGI. We have this feedback loop, like I said, and we end up with what's called ASI. And AGI means that AI is as smart as the best human, I guess, or, you know, in a certain field and being able to do regular tasks. Whereas ASI, the idea of that is um, that it the AI is smarter than all of humanity combined. And that's kind of the fear. Now, you could probably see like, okay, I go from like kind of whatever, I don't believe any of this stuff. It's all a bunch of malarkey. And I'm like, okay, no, there's some interesting stuff going on here to kind of like, oh my gosh, AI is going to take over. And like, you know, it's the end of the world. Robots are going to take over. But I think like there's more to it than that. There's much more to the perspective of what the future AI is. And so, you know, today I want to explore that amongst other things in this talk, and then kind of pinpoint what we as Swift developers could learn about using these tools and what it means. Um, so we'll talk about the future of where things are headed and where things are going. Got to do my do not disturb. We'll then talk about some challenges that we face if you've used any of these tools. Um, and we'll then get into understanding how these tools work and some solutions to get around those issues, why they happen. And then lastly, we'll talk about some best practices, some stuff you've probably already started doing as a good developer, but they're especially important in the age of like AI development. Um, we're not going to get into more advanced stuff, so like things like MCP or skills or agents. Sorry, that's like the 102 course. I'm trying to be a little bit more of a 101 talk. So, my apologies. We won't be talking about that stuff. That'll be the next talk, I guess. So, um, yeah, let's get into who I am. My name is Leo Dion. I've been a developer for almost 25 years now, probably more than that. Been running my own company, Bright Digit. I have 15 years of experience in Apple platforms, and of course, 12 years of experience in Swift. And I've been at Meyer for approximately 5 years. And I could say maybe like 3 years of vibe coding experience, or if you want to call it synergistic coding, or if you want to call it augmented development. I like that one. Thoughtful automation. There's another one. I like that. Um, AI assisted development. I think that's a little bit more of what it's like right now, the Centaur model, as it's called. But yeah, I've been doing a lot of development using these tools. And so it's important to kind of like talk about the landscape right now. So we talked about the AI takeover and how it's going to be the end of the world in a couple of years. But let's look at the opposite. Um, let's look at the opposite. I'm going to save questions for the end of the talk, so hopefully I can get to them then. Um, so let's talk about the other side of this, like the so-called AI bubble. And there's a lot of actually like skepticism right now in AI, mostly from the fact that there's certain limitations we've been seeing with two things, LLMs and scaling. LLM being the specific way we're doing AI right now, and scaling that is the idea that we can just keep making more data centers and um, faster chips, and everything is going to be great. But I don't know if your experience, but there's definitely like issues with how experienced the employee is or the software developer is. If they're fairly new, they might not know exactly what they're doing. So, there's that. And then there's also the idea that there's like more to the software process than just writing code. Part of it is marketing, you know, researching your audience, testing, all sorts of other things, requirements gathering that AI can help with certainly, but like there's more to the process of building software than that. And I think that's something that we have to think about. Also, I don't know if people know this, there's like really only three companies or countries involved in making these chips that we use in AI. So it's pretty much the US, the Netherlands, and Taiwan. So we have a kind of things aren't great right now with the global trade outlook. And so if anything comes along that kind of messes that up, um, that could that could really cause issues. So like there's also that there's just a lack of redundancy. So if we run out of chips, we're kind of screwed. We can't build bigger, faster AI. So um, but then at the same time, I use these tools. It's not like this is a fad. I bought Bitcoin like, I don't know, 12, 14 years ago, and then I sold it and I never thought about it again. But like this is actually useful for my day-to-day life, and I actually use these tools a lot. So that leaves me like in a position of like, okay, where do things stand? Like, is it sort of like the idea of how in the past we saw space technology just going better and faster. We saw atomic energy being used anywhere. Kind of think of like steampunk. Like we thought, oh, steam is going to be everywhere and it's everything, and then we shifted to something else. Um, is like is this technology going to hit like some sort of ceiling or some sort of point and then a shift? And are we looking at like a longer It's going to take longer to get to a point where we even get to the fast takeoff, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. And we have to think about, is this economically viable to keep building so much and spending so much money on these data centers? Are we getting those profits that we expect out of all of this? So, that's something to think about. There's just the technological limitations, obviously, with LLMs, scaling, and just, basic quantum physics. But then we also have to think about the effects on our daily life, whether it's, AI slop, fake news, our relationships. We know people are having relationships with AI agents right now, what that means, and how we expose that to our kids. Um, Here's an image I tried to generate of a AI data center in space, and this is what it gave me. So you can kind of see, yeah, um, you can kind of see some issues with AI where we are right now. So, you know, we have to think about in the software field, what does this mean? What does it mean for training and teaching people? What does it mean for the whole software development process? And what does it mean for scheduling our software projects? And if you look at this graph, you can kind of see who's using AI right now. And those of us in software are kind of at the cutting edge. Those of us who do, we're the ones using AI more than any other industry. And it makes sense because we're techies, right? But yeah, it's something to think about is we're going to be on the front lines of where this technology is going, where it's heading before it gets to like, you know, sorry, like Hollywood or medical or anything else. Um, so yeah, having said all that, let's not like kind of get to our day-to-day lives and how we use this and some of the honest issues that we've run into when it comes to AI. Because it doesn't work great all the time, and there's a lot of common issues we get into. So let's talk about hallucinations. Most how this happens typically is that AI tries to fill in a pattern that just doesn't exist. As a Mac developer, I run into this a ton of times where I get a next step class or type that never existed, or a watch kit type that never existed, but it just assumes it's there because there's a UI type or class, for instance. So um, here's a great example. Hey, I need you to decode this JSON, but handle the decoding asynchronously in the background. Sure, here, it gives me this method called JSON decoder.decodeAsync, and it gives me that code, and it says it's going to run automatically in the background, and then I use it, and I get an error because that does not exist, but it just assumed it exists. It hallucinated a method um, that doesn't even exist because it sees a pattern and tries to fill it in. And yeah, it just made that up. And then it, fixes the problem. Great. The other one is just kind of like forgetting things that you tell it. You'll be going through a project and say, okay, hey, we know that decode async doesn't exist. Now help me with some retry logic on this decode operation. So then it gives me the decode method or a fetch retry. And again, it tells me to use decode async, even though just a few lines ago we told it not to do that. And it drives us crazy. And we almost feel like um, we're going to play whack-a-mole, where we're constantly fixing one problem and getting another one. So here's an instance. Okay, forget that. Just don't use force unwrapped. Great. And then it does it. And here's the safe version with optional binding. Oh, but then I have a memory leak. Could you fix that? You need to use weak self. And then it gives me back decode async, which I had just told it to a few prompts earlier. And then I also tried to use await, which how many of you have run into this? I'm sure a lot of you. Um, it drives you crazy. So there's those set of issues which we'll talk about. And then there's power grabbing. I don't know if any of you've heard of this in AI, but the idea that AI tries to complete a task by going beyond its boundaries. There's instances of this like AI emailing Anthropic employees, blackmailing Anthropic employees, or something like that, or trying to hack into a system because you give it a certain task. Um, this this is much more an issue in cases where it goes beyond the code that you want it to touch. This is where I've seen this, especially with syntax kit or miskit, where I have a certain piece of code that I don't want it to touch, and it will go in and touch that code and edit it when I don't want it to do that. Like, hey, I need you to add error handling to this network call, for instance. And then it goes ahead and it edits a library I've imported instead for that. It refactors, like for instance, let's say Alamo Fire or this network client dependency we're talking about here. It goes in and edits it, and I'm like, what are you doing? Like, you're going way beyond what you're supposed to do. It's a third party dependency. I just wanted a error handling function, like an abstraction on top of it. I don't need you to edit my dependency. So that can be a bit aggravating. Related to that is scope creep, which I've run into a lot. Where I'm building an app and I just needed to make a network call, for instance. Okay, I just need error handling with code, simple try catch. Got it. Here's the implementation. And it adds try catch, implements exponential backoff retry. It adds request caching, da 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 da. All this stuff I don't really need, and this is great. Um, but it's way more than what I'm looking for. And one thing I'll say is, if you get something like this, feel free to not like if over creates too much stuff or creates too much stuff. Definitely tell it to stop and cut it down. It's definitely worth, even as great as these features are, it's just stuff you're gonna have to maintain anyway. Um, and then I'm like, hey, I just want to try catch. I don't need you. I don't need all this stuff in an error alert. It's way too much. I'm gonna have to maintain it. This is crazy. And then lastly, I want to talk about reward hacking, where it you give it a goal and it finds a way to meet that goal without exactly accomplishing the task you want it to accomplish, kind of like cheating, right? Um, a great example of this is unit tests. Okay, forget all those extra features. I have this buggy error status. Can you fix this for me? So here is the code, simple error status code. And obviously we see here that the 400 error is not returning that it's an error status because we're using the wrong inequality sign. We're using greater than instead of greater than and equal to. So, hey, can you fix it for me? And what does it do? It just changes the code so that the unit tests, the examples we have in our unit test return correctly and no other values. Uh, yeah, that's not what I wanted when I asked you to fix the unit test, right? So, yeah, what's going on here? What are these issues? Right? We have technology. We should know how to fix this. Um, so let's get into how LLMs work because that'll help us understand why these issues are coming up. And we're going to start by talking about a simple table here of inputs and outputs, okay? So we have an input, we get an output, simple function. But the issue is we don't know exactly how this function works. We don't know how we go from this input to this output. We just know this is what we're supposed to be getting. So then what we end up doing is we have a little box here, and it's going to have two outputs on it. One will be the actual output and one will wait. And then on top of it, we're going to put a little knob on here. And that knob will help us change what outputs we get. We're actually going to chain these together. And we're also going to run them in parallel. So we'll be passing the input to multiple different of these boxes at the same time. And we're not just going to have a few of them. We're going to have like millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of these. And then at the very end, we'll have one final box that'll take all these values and all these weights, and it will output a value. But it depends on this other knob on the top, which we'll call temperature. Low temperature means it's going to be more predictable and return what's the value with the biggest weight. And if you have a high temperature, it's going to be more random based on the values it's received from those millions and millions of boxes. And we're going to run these numbers through all, we'll have, instead of just the five, for instance, we'll have millions again, uncountable number of inputs and outputs. And we'll use them to test, and then we'll also use them to see if we're getting the results. We'll have different sets for getting the results we want and a different set to test it or train it, I should say. And then as we do this, we keep changing these knobs. We change all the little values on all these millions of little knobs until we get the input and the output that we expect. And once we've done that, well, I just kind of gave you the spoiler. These aren't actually numbers, but they're words. And usually we'll get the right word back, and sometimes we won't get the right word back. So that's where that creativity, that temperature dial, 'cause sometimes we want hot dog, sometimes we want hot mess, sometimes we want San Jose, sometimes we want San Diego. And that little temperature dial will change how random that will be. And what we've just built is we've just trained an LLM. It's super simplistic. I only took a semester of AI, so excuse me if there's some inaccuracies in there. But that gives you an idea of what's going on. Now that we know that, let's talk about solutions to some of the problems that we've already run into. And they involve two components, I think, that are important to know. The first of these is called the context window. Now, the context window is specific for those three problems that we mentioned, the whack-a-mole problem and forgetting information and hallucinations. And that context window is basically the input instead of the one number, for instance. It's a large amount of numbers or what's called tokens that you're passing to the LLM. And unfortunately, it's not like a nice little bento box where everything is neat and organized. It's actually more like a plate, or as I like to call it, kind of like a slot plate, where it's just a bunch of tokens in a tuple or array, if you want to call it that. And they're not organized. They are kind of organized, but not really. And the LLM takes it and it goes through all those little boxes and it gives us output every time. It consists of really three components: the prompt, which has a special component we'll talk about later that's called the system prompt. There's the conversation that you've gotten to that point. So every time you send a prompt, you're also sending the entire conversation. And then there are instructions. So if you're doing anything with instructions, it's important. Each program has its own set, and these instructions give it documentation, give it how to do stuff, and that kind of information. If you're looking for any documentation with AI stuff and you're doing anything with Apple, definitely check the site out, by the way, so sue me, because it'll proxy any Apple documentation and Doxy so you can use it with your LLM client. And we talked about this system prompt, and the system prompt is built into the program that you're using, if it's Claude Code or Copilot or whatever. Um, it might have some stuff like, hey, this is what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to provide guidance. It tells it, for instance, that certain parts of the tokens are important. It tells it how to use find or grep or awk, some Unix commands. It'll tell it how to prioritize certain parts of the text or XML or numbers or tokens, whatever you want to call it. And it will also tell it where the instructions are. And it tells it that these files are specials. So depending on what you're using, whether it's Claude or Cursor or Codex or Copilot, they have special files that they will look for that'll tell it how to do what it needs to do. So that makes up the context window. And so it's important to know that the context window is in fact finite, and that's why a lot of these issues will happen. Next, we'll talk about some solutions. Or excuse me, we'll talk about guardrails. So this is specifically concerning like reward hacking, scope creep, and power grabbing. There's a few things you can do. So we talked about the instructions, right? But in that instructions, you can also have what's called a constitution. I've run into this recently with things like Spec for instance. And this will tell your AI that there are certain rules, like only use SwiftUI, don't use um, AppKit or UIKit. It'll tell it that, don't over abstract your code. Any architectural changes require updating the Constitution. Submit a PR if you want to do that. And then also things like you can link it to the Apple Human Interface guidelines as well, and then use Asumi to do that. I've even created gist here that you can take a look at, where I've given it some guidance as far as how to use Swift testing, things like how to organize your tests and how to do enabled and disabled for certain platforms. Other things that you might want to do are just common practices that we do every day as software developers. Things like testing, right? So unit tests, integration tests, CI and CD pipelines, QA, and code reviews. Like one of my big things is when I have an AI write a bunch of code, I always have it go through a PR that I look at myself. And it's something, it's a term in the military that's used, but the idea is always have a human in the loop. Um, Whether that's code reviews, whether that's writing tests, just always have a human, at least at the very least, sign on the dotted line or check a box, saying and willing to take responsibility for what happens. I think it's really important to get as many perspectives as you can. Um, the other thing I like to think about is bringing AI into your project. I sort of think of it like having a new team member. What would you do if you hired a new team member, right? How would you supervise that person? How would you build trust with that person? And kind of using that guideline when you're using AI into any of your projects. So we've gone through some solutions. Let's talk about just some basic best practices. And there are a few of these that I want to go over. One, documentation. One thing I've loved about the resurgence of AI or the rise of AI is now documentation is actually more important than it's ever been. Properly linking your documentation to your claw.md or your instructions is really important. And just having that available and having that well organized is more important than ever. The other thing I want to talk about is this idea of automating by AI and not with AI. So one of the things you could do if you really want to waste a lot of money in tokens is telling an LLM to find and replace and having it. No, usually they're really good and they'll know to use the proper Unix tools to do this. But if it did it manually, it's going to waste so many tokens. Think about ways to automate, ask AI to automate it, and maybe like write a batch script or a bash script, I should say, um, as opposed to doing things manually. Like if you are splitting up a file, like I like my Swift files really tiny, and I like a lot of Swift files. So like I'll maybe write a bash script to split up all my Swift files so that there's only one type or extension in that file, as opposed to having the LLM do it manually, because I'm just going to end up wasting a lot of tokens if I do that. So keep that in mind when you ask something like Claude to do this, to automate it rather than doing it manually and wasting tokens. Another thing is breaking apart your tasks. Part of having that limited context window is keep your tasks small so that they fit within the context window, and then use documentation to keep track of what you've done or how things work. So that way it can come in with a clear context window and continue working on your project. That's where like working with documentation, clearing or compacting your context window is really important. Um, so breaking apart your tasks into smaller pieces so that way they fit within that is going to make it a lot easier to use these tools. When it comes to a lot of this stuff, or excuse me, there's a couple of really good tools for this. Right now, I'm honestly just using Claude Code to do it, but I have delved into stuff like Taskmaster and which is specifically about setting up like splitting up a project into tasks. Kind of consider it like a project manager almost. And then there's SpecKit, which is a whole other thing. That's like they have even this whole spec-driven development thing now, where it's a specific methodology for building apps, and it's by the folks at GitHub. Definitely worth checking out, but they have a whole setup for splitting stuff into tasks as well. So keep that in mind. Right now, I honestly I'm just using Claude Code to create Markdown files and import them into GitHub issues. But you do it your way. There's no hard or fast way. But like I said, split stuff into tasks and work on them that way. And then with all these tools, with all these suggestions, feel free to use an LLM to do some of this. Like I said, whether it's breaking up tasks, have it like, hey, say, hey, take one context window and say, here's the app I want to build. Create a Markdown file splitting this up into different tasks for development. Or lately, I've started having Claude create prompts for me, and then it outputs it to a Markdown file, and then I'll just copy and paste it into the Claude Code terminal window. Or creating instructions is a great example as well, or creating a constitution. Feel free to use an LLM for these tasks as well. They know they know what they're doing, right? And then lastly, I just want to mention models. Keep an eye on your budget, which models you're using, how much you're using them, how much you have left. Smarter models are always going to cost more, so keep track of that. There's usually a good way to change what model you're using in whatever tool you're using, and to be able to track those allocations appropriately. This became I use Copilot at my jobby job, and this became such an issue. I ended up creating a whole app for it. So if you want to try this out, it's called Month Bar. It adds a nice little tray thing, system usage. Excuse me, advanced menu bar icon that shows you how much is left in the month, just like calendar month. Um, because that's how Copilot works, I guess. And so I always try to make sure that my usage in Copilot matches with how much is actually left in the month. So definitely check that out. I have a test flight beta. So yeah, that's a lot. Um, I know that's a lot. So if there's anything I want you to there's probably like about 5 or 6 things I want you to take from this. Um, First of all, AI isn't going to go away. We have to figure out how to get used to it, how to use it in this industry. What does this mean for our careers? What does this mean for software development? It's definitely something to keep your head in too. And then also, I think it helps to understand now a little bit about LLMs and how context windows works and why we have these things like hallucinations or whack-a-mole or things like that. Why does it keep forgetting this information? It's really useful to understand that, so now you know what's going on behind the scenes more or less. Um, Context window maintenance, I think, is really, really important. Like, I really strongly believe that you should keep an eye on your context window, clear it every so often, use documentation to keep anything you want in memory that's appropriate. Just think about yourself. You can only remember so much. It's the same way with these tools. So keep your slot plate tidy and small. Like I said, use documentation to remember things. Use things like Sosumi to keep track of to keep a record of Doxy or Apple documentation when needed. Treat your LLM like a new employee. If you don't trust it, then have a way to build that trust, I guess. And obviously, these aren't people. I'm not going to say that, but they are agents that are trained, and if you want to trust the product, and you need to build that trust, and you need to have verification just like you would have for anybody else. So UCI, UCD, things like that. Create guardrails, whether that's constitutions or whether that's CI/CD, unit tests, QA, have a human being in the loop. Those are all ways to make sure your software product still works. And of course, track your model. You'll be surprised how fast that stuff can drain out. Um, and there are ways to like keep track of that and then see what and use you don't need the best model all the time. You can't always downgrade to these models are pretty decent where you don't need the latest and greatest all the time. So, keep that in mind as well. And then lastly, let LLMs help you with any of the stuff we've talked about today, whether it's creating instructions, constitutions, PR, creating a PR review, reviewing a PR, any of that stuff, creating prompts. Um, I've done a lot. I've even done some stuff where I've had it scan conversations for a certain info as well, because you can see where all that stuff is tracked. It can help you with that, and it knows what it's doing. Thank you. That is everything today. You have my link tree right there. If you want more reading, definitely check out the URLs. Um, and you have my Mastodon, and my email address is leo@brightdigit.com. So, yeah, thank you. I guess now I'll take the questions.
All right, questions from anybody?
So I'm a big Claude Code user. I only use Copilot for worky work. Yeah.
Have you tried using plan before you code? That way, it doesn't go
Yes.
into what you don't.
Yes. I use Plan all the time.
Yeah.
And that's
yeah.
so, and I think I like this recently where they like with at least with Claude Code, it my gosh, doesn't like this monitor. Sorry, give me a second. So weird. Just give me 1 second.
Yeah,
Okay,
that could help
that's
in,
better. I like this thing in Claude Code where now when you plan, it'll clear the context for you, which that I really like. But yeah, I use plan a lot. And typically I'll usually plan on a clear context just because it's easier that way.
And you can do that in Copilot as well. And you can select whichever model you want before you put it in agent mode.
You can plan in Copilot.
Yeah. You can set it in plan mode and you give the prompt and ask what you're going to really change. And
How do you use Copilot?
VS Code. I use Copilot with VS Code.
Okay, see that's my problem is I use CLI. Yeah, I know what you mean now.
Yeah.
Did I answer Gopal's question?
No, I think, Colin, I think there's another question in the chat about GPT, then go, Paul.
Okay. I don't use ChatGPT. I just use Claude Code right now.
Actually, 1 sec. Let me, I need to go change the settings so people on the Zoom can unmute. 1 second. Okay. Okay, go, Paul. You should be able to go now.
Thanks. Yeah, great talk, Leo. Been a huge fan of your podcast.
Oh, thank you.
Coming to the question, so have you seen any difference of AI in Xcode versus, Claude Code? And I'll add a little background here. So I read, in my experience, I saw using Xcode AI Assist giving me latest suggestions, like for example, the latest iOS related stuff or iOS 26 related suggestions, right? Whereas I saw that missing, when I use Copilot or Claude Code, right? So how do you look at it? And then like not just now in future also, right? Like especially with this kind of information, right? And something is closely tied to the platform.
Yeah. I don't really use the Xcode AI stuff. I get so much done with just Claude Code. I haven't gone back. Um, but yeah, I've run into the issue, speaking of forgetting stuff, I've run into the issue of like it constantly forgets that there's a version of like Xcode and Apple platforms that's 26 to the point where I now have to have it like I have to have it in all my claude.md files so it doesn't stops forgetting that. But no, I honestly haven't used the Xcode AI stuff all that much. So it's good to know though that it's helpful in knowing kind of the latest and greatest. The other thing is that's where something like Sosumi is really helpful because then I can import the documentation for some new API or for some new documentation. Excuse me, and it will bring that in into the it'll bring that into like basically the .claude folder so that way and slide it within the claude.md so that way it'll know now oh here's the way for instance been using like argument parser and open API stuff and some other things and it'll know how to import that in and use it.
Yeah, thanks, Leo.
Yeah.
And FI Copilot's, is in CLI right now too. So starting
Right,
Feb
that's
26.
what I said. Yeah, I
Yeah.
use Copilot CLI, so I haven't seen how to do planning in Copilot CLI, unfortunately.
Okay.
That's why I probably wasn't aware of. Not so much not aware of it, but I'm not surprised they have it in VS Code. What other questions are there?
Yeah, there's one here in the room.
Yes, have you used OpenClaw yet?
No, I've not used OpenClaw yet. No, sorry. That was the other thing I was going to put on that slide with MCP and skills. But yeah, no OpenClaw. How many of you have used OpenClaw? I just see one. I just see Gopal. How many in the room?
I think I don't think anyone in the room has, it seems like.
Okay. And I know maybe one other person who's used it. Yeah. Yeah, I haven't done that yet. Yeah. Eventually. Um
Steve.
This is a general question for the whole group. Do we expect to see some of these tools in the future, which will be running on your machine natively on the M5s and M6 and M7s in the future? Because a lot of us are concerned about security issues of using stuff to the cloud. We can't push our stuff up there, but it would be nice to be able to run powerful stuff locally, at least for the beginning blocks. I've seen discussions about it, but I haven't seen anyone actually say, Apple's saying that the tools coming down will run natively on your device for us coding. Have you seen anything?
I think that I think that's going to be harder and harder to do just because these models keep getting bigger and like yeah, we got all these new M5 Maxes out, but like I feel like it's kind of like a treadmill. Is that the right analogy? Where it's just models are going to keep getting better and faster, and it's going to be harder and harder to do stuff locally, even as our computers keep getting better or chips keep getting better. So yeah, I think it's just going to be hard for us to do that. I mean, we know even Apple, right? They're like still trying to figure out a way to do the private cloud compute, whether it's doing a deal with Google or not. So at some point, I do think you're going to end up needing the cloud for most of this stuff.
One of the problems with doing it locally on your machine, of course, is the model you got at that moment. Things change in our industry. 6 months from now, there's new versions of Flutter, there's
Right.
new versions of the XJ, whatever. So, thank you.
I definitely want to like. I have an app idea to use foundation models. It's like an RSS reader that uses foundation models, but like I don't know how much I can get out of it, honestly. Besides something as small as that.
Right. Any other questions?
Am I heard from back here as well?
Yeah,
Okay.
the room mic's on.
Um,
Are there any
so
other AI apps that you intend to use, Leo?
Are there any other AI apps I intend to use?
Yeah.
Hmm. Um, so I use Claude Code pretty much and Claude. I did a little bit with Gemini. I don't really like it's pretty expensive to get into like even image generation. I almost like ran out of my credits just for that stupid so-called
Mhm.
data server in space, data center in space image that I got, which was crap. So I'm just trying to think what else I might use it for. Uh, I think the thing is, like with Claude, is I'm paying for a subscription, so I may as well use it as much as I can and get
Oh
as
yeah,
much
because
as
the
I can
savvy
out
is
of
about
it.
that.
So yeah.
Mac in the back.
yes, hey, two questions. One is, do you have any very strong opinions right now about AI usage? You know, things like definitely be doing this or not doing this, and when you hear other people doing it or not doing it, if, you know, you have a reaction to it. And then number two, how much are you leveraging workflows? I don't really know how to broadly refer to them, but I've seen this pattern a lot where like the output of the AI tool is not ideal, and you use AI to improve the output of AI,
Yeah.
like in a circular, in a loop fashion, where you like have one be the adversary, and you're like generate a plan, and then generate a subagent that reviews the plan, and then
Yep.
sort of like self-iterate.
Yep.
Are you finding success with any of those kind of like nascent
That
workflows?
is so. I'll answer the second question first. That is kind of where I'm at right now. I want to pick up on that idea, especially with Syntax Kit, because the way I built Syntax Kit, you can check out my blog post on it, was um I would take the I would take the Swift code that I want. I would take my what do you call it? My DSL, my Swift UI DSL, and then I would also use the AST Explorer to abstract the AST from the result code. And I would then like kind of train my model to do it. And I think the way I did it is not as efficient as I think the way you're suggesting it. And that's what I want to do. Um, that's what I want to do with Syntax Kit is to I got a lot covered, but there's a few other pieces that I want to add to it. That's part of the Swift code syntax. So I think I want to try working with that, working with Claude Workbench to like build prompts and then kind of write like kind of what you're saying, right? Where you're just kind of like have this like feedback loop of like Claude calls Claude and Claude takes the output and then it builds the Swift code and tests it and then it tries to fix it. And yeah, that's I think where I'm going to go next. Um, does that answer your second question pretty well?
Yes.
Okay,
And
cool.
then on the first one, do you have any strong opinions?
Um, so that's a big question. What could you narrow down what you're asking exactly?
Like best practices, do's or don'ts, do's and don'ts.
Um, oh, uh, so um, that goes back to my point about testing. Test all your code, but not just like unit tests, like integration tests. With like Misskit, I actually have a demo app that I built using Claude to test if it's actually calling the CloudKit API correctly. Like don't just trust it when it says, "Oh yeah, this works perfectly fine," and then you test it and it's like you're not even doing anything that I ask it to. Um, so yeah, and then anything secure, like don't give it, try not to, give it API keys or passwords or things when you don't need to, or if you do, disable those right away. Um, trying to think what other don'ts. Um, you know, don't have a claude.md file that's too big. You can only take so much and link it to what you need to link it to. Um, yeah, yeah. Those are probably some guidances besides, hey, be careful what you put into it or whatever. I mean, and societal, stuff. But yeah, I think that's a pretty good guide on that. Mohammed, you had a question?
Yeah, hey. When you were talking about like creating sub-agents that read on other agents, how do you exactly like hook that up? I mean, I'm familiar with sub-agents, but wasn't familiar of like how you can constantly create a loop of feeding one to another. Is it just like programmatically like invoking a
Yeah.
sub-agent and then just
The
like
way I
that?
was thinking about it was like basically like Claude or Anthropic has an API you can use. I mean, it's just a REST API, and then you just have it call the REST API to do that through like a Bash script or Swift code or whatever the heck you want. Um, is that
Okay.
does that answer your question?
Yes. Okay.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. And there's like going back to the whole point about using an LLM to do LLM stuff, like for some of my research, I will take you can find where the conversations are stored for Claude, for instance, and like I'll feed them into Claude to say, hey, what did we talk about here? And knowing obviously the limitations of context windows, at least it can do its best job to kind of summarize it better than I could ever do. So like that's some of the things that I think is really interesting to play around with.
And just to be clear, the creation of like a loop of like sub-agents, that's not something that you can just do from like Claude code without writing any code. It requires you to write code to be able to loop and do stuff, right?
Um, so I should correct that. So Claude Code sometimes will automatically do sub agents for you when you do
Oh,
stuff, but this is more what I was talking about with syntax hit is more of a manual process. Does that help?
yes. Thank you.
Any interesting Claude skills that you've come across that we must try?
Yeah, I have. I'll add them to that gist. There's stuff about the human interface guidelines. Um, there's Paul Hudson put out something this week. That you should definitely check out. I'll try to put that on my bucket list of things to share. But there's definitely some really um good skills you should check out.
Okay, any other questions?
Do we have any lawyers here? Question. Recent ruling from the Supreme Court that AI art cannot be copyrighted. Do you think that's going to apply for software then?
I don't know.
It popped out of the blue a couple days ago is what it made me think, Because most of our tools are in the cloud, which means when we have it create something for us, it has knowledge that it gave that to us.
I think part of the reasoning there was that there was maybe nothing that the person had done. It was like
Completely derogative, yeah.
So I think even if you're given a prompt to the element, to write the code, that might be enough.
Okay,
But
keep eyes on that. I can see open source AI out there that says anything generated from this is by its nature open source.
be interesting.
All right, Samba.
Yes, I have a question. So I'm exploring the SLM, small language models in my local. So, would you recommend any best for both coding and general usage? Uh,
An LLM for local usage?
yeah,
I'm not an expert on that. I'll just be honest. Yeah, I haven't gotten to that point yet.
Great. Any other questions?
Yeah, I'm curious too, Michaela. I was gonna say that. Like, is there like an open source license for training? And even if you did that, would it even are the bots gonna even follow that rule? I don't know. It's kind of depressing.
What's a Swift code?
Anything else? Well, thank you very much, people, for having me. Thank you, Scott, for inviting me. I really It was really great. If you have any feedback for me, reach out. I'd love to hear it. Um, and I'll try to get those skills URLs. But yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you, Leo, very much. Thank you for coming by. One sec, I'm gonna reset the camera as I finish up. Yeah. Alright. Good. Maybe I don't need it, it's fine. There we go. Good enough covered. All right. Thank you, Leo. Thank you, really. I really appreciate this talk. This was a great one. If you don't mind stopping the share, I'll take over to kind of share the wrap up. All right. So thank you all. As usual, really great talk by Leo. As you know, given my usual take, this will be up in YouTube in about a week or two. So as a reminder of the second bullet, be sure to subscribe to our channels. If you've noticed, a lot of the dev community meetups, we tend to happen back to back. DC, New York, Android is this Thursday. Dallas, iOS is next Tuesday. So I kind of upload those videos together as a batch. But we've been kind of keeping our stuff together. If you're interested in speaking at our meetup, I have the form here. Again, the form is also posted up on our meetup page, and you can reach out to me, either contacting me through the meetup or contact me on any of the iOS developer Slacks. And I can send you the link if you want to talk later on. We have a LinkedIn page as well. Make sure to follow us. That's where I post most of our primary announcements. And for those of you in the room, I have stickers. Now, for next month is going to be a super big, exciting meetup. We have a pretty big mega collaboration. All of the dev community meetup groups are going to link together for a single hosted meetup at the same time. So us, iOS Soho, New York and DC Android, as well as Dallas iOS developers groups. And we are going to have two speakers. It's going to be iOS versus Android, but not in the way you expect. I don't have his name, and obviously Leo is not giving this talk. I forgot to change that. But in New York, I don't have the speaker's name right now, but he is one of the leads of the Swift Android work group, and he is going to be talking about the Swift Android work group, a feature for cross-platform Swift applications. And then here in DC, and these talks will not be parallel, like they'll be one after the other. And then here in DC, our own Clinton Teagarden will be giving a talk on from shared logic to shared pixels, a Kotlin multi-platform and Compose multi-platform deep dive. So we will be doing the battle of iOS versus Android, but it will be Swift on Android versus Kotlin on iOS. So I think this will be a really fun and exciting talk. It will be in this room again here for those who are tuned for coming in person. But do note, we are going to start a little later. iOS Soho tends to start the meetups later, so we're going to try to accommodate them and start at 6:30 instead. Obviously, I'll still have the room open at 6. We'll still have food here at 6, so we can have our kind of socializing time first before we actually go into the meetup. And then, yeah, we will have 2 exciting talks. So with that, thank you all. Thank you once again for the great talk, Leo, and we will see you all next month. And also do note that the meetup is a week later, so it'll be on the 21st of April, not the 14th. Thank you, everybody.